So as some of y'all know, I was down in Atlanta the other day, and when I tell you, I was down there. Thanksgiving it up, eating the food, loving eating with black folk. We were having some real candied yams and some roasted turkey, some ham here, some casserole there, some here that done at the bun of the bun. It was sweet, it was juicy, it was fantastic. But my favorite thing that we ended up doing was watching Wicked 1 and Wicked for Good. And when I tell you we was hot, it was hot. Okay, all right, so let's cook. Let's start this off with some of the things that I will just say right off the bat was just beautiful, especially from the 1 and the 2. The visual effects, it was a great time. I would have watched it purely for the visuals that they were giving. It was getting to the point where I was like, how are they getting through all these angles and how are they getting these types of shots that are able to have such lighting while still making the makeup look fantastic? Let's talk about the makeup real quick. So Cynthia Erivo, Cynthia Erivo and Ariana Grande were the two main stars of this movie, but I will say the stars cast was stunning. This cast was stunning. It was beautiful. One of the main things I do like, especially for Cynthia Erivo's character, so she was the Wicked Witch. She was Elphaba. Feels very Nigerian, a very Ghanaian Nigerian name. That's what I was feeling from it, but that's a whole nother conversation. Ooh. One of the coolest things that came from her design was one. So they went and painted her whole scalp, and then they had a wig inserted on top, and it looked really good in the first movie and honestly in the second one. Two, I really enjoyed how they were able to tell so many stories in honestly not that much time, because I remember I watched the first movie it halfway through at the house and the rest of the way on a car ride up to where we were staying. And when I tell you, it got to the point where when it finished, I was like, wow, this movie was not that long. And then you watch the second movie and I'm like, wow, this movie was not that long. And they're both like 2.5 hours. And that's a testament to how engaging it was. And usually I'm a master hater when it comes to musicals, because I'm like, please stop with all that singing. Get back to the storytelling, dialogue, hands, the fights. I want to see all the magic. But for this one, it got to the point where the music was so seamless into the way that they were inserting itself into the movie that I was like, you know what? I need it. And honestly, it makes me feel more connected with the characters with the music playing also. That's one thing that I started to notice very quickly while I was watching. And this being an adaptation of an adaptation of The Wizard of Oz, it really drew back some memories. Because the best way I can explain it is, so the story of Wicked is happening. Well, it's happening in tandem. That's the best way I can put it, because of the story. They tell the background of Elphaba and Glinda. Yeah, Glinda, because she ends up changing her name to Galinda after. But yeah, the point. So as you're watching the way that they're able to set up these characters, you really see how in depth everything goes. Because of, especially for Elphaba's character, her whole wish, her whole goal was to get just changed and adapted to be able to fit into the world that was being as Oz. So he's like, hey, I need to find the wizard. The wizard, please save me. Please show me the way. I want to be changed. That's the main thing that was going on. And it got to the point because of everybody hated her because of how green her skin was. Because of the green was a... They kept trying to push this idea that the greenness of her skin was a physical representation of the nastiness, of the jealousy, of the evil that is within her, and it's showing itself on her skin, which I found very interesting, especially since she was like the only dark-skinned character in this whole movie. And I love the way that this movie, these two movies, was able to emphasize so many thematic storylines and put in so many different themes at once without it being such a face forwarding conversation, especially with the interactions between certain characters and how some people were seen as inherently good and other people just had to be wicked. That's the only way we could put it. You're a wicked witch. Yes, I'm sorry. And the way that, so I will say, some of the ways that they were able to design the characters before that I start really diving into the story, I do want to mention what they did with the Tin Man was fantastic. He looked so rustic. He looked because I remember watching The Wizard of Oz and how like cartoony everything was, and the fact that they were able to have the Tin Man be like this not anamorphic, but like this super villain. Like it really looked like he would be designed to fight crime. He looked like nightmare fuel, where you look at his face and you see the anger, you see the hate, and you see the despair, and the fact that he has been changed. But we'll get there. There was so much in this movie. These movies was long. There was so much happening. Oh my. So I want to talk about Glinda. She just feels like a white woman. She definitely felt like the stereotypical white woman, from the white woman tears, from the fact that she's surprised that anybody would find anybody else but her attractive, to the way that she would just constantly feel jealous anytime that Elphaba was getting any kind of praise from anybody, from the teachers to Friero to the different animals. The fact that everybody would still, even with the way that she would look, they were still like naturally gravitating towards her, because of, it seemed like her character seemed to be more interested in physically being beautiful than actually doing anything that's worth being called beautiful, or even engaging with anything that's like worth that adoration that does come from being great. Because of, she was always given what she wanted. She was always set up in a way that she would succeed. Like even there was a flashback where she was like a baby, and so not only does she get this magnificent party with all of her friends, she also gets this wand. And when she gets the wand and she tries to do a trick, boom, nothing happened. She is so talentless. Zero magic. There is not an ounce of magic in her. Well, maybe a little bit later, but that's a whole other conversation. It gets to the point where something random happens out in the sky and she's just like, oh, yeah, that was me. I did that. It just naturally, without any hesitation, just takes the credit from the nature as at large. And I found it so interesting. Like the need for her to be seen as great was something that was, or like the need for her to be seen as good. Like you saw with the first interaction that she was having with Elphaba, like when they first met. And right off the bat, she gets to talking down. She's like, anytime, what did she say? She was like, anytime that I see somebody like less fortunate than me, I just have to do something. I just have to help some way, somehow. I don't know. It makes me feel bad. And I'm like, girl, please leave that lady alone. Leave that lady alone. Oh my God. I found that scene very intriguing, because of Elphaba wasn't even like there to attend the school, and yet they were so quick to try and like ostracize her, where it's like, oh my God, you're like green, oh, you're just like so nasty and green right off the bat. No hi, no hello. That's all they saw was the grain in Elphaba, and I found that just so repulsive. So as you start seeing her character more, there's this constant trait of this backstabbiness that was just like inherent to her character, where if there was a way for her to get ahead, she would always take that. Like without a doubt, like even when they were stoning her BFF. Oh, let's even talk about the BFF-ness of it. I found like there was a tension to Elphaba and Glenn and Galinda, where it felt like when you have a crush and then you just like act like a dick. You just act like the meanest person around just to like get a rise out of them some way, somehow. Make sure that they still feel you, which I've always found just so childish. But hey, I love a little romance plot in the background of a story. It's fun. There's just one scene that really emphasizes the type of character that she really is and what she means to the world at large. So there is this underlining like fascist regime that's going around and putting the animals in cages. Keep in mind, the animals always lived in Oz. They lived with them for so long and they connected for so long that they end up learning the English language. Like they're able to speak with the humans because they're just like that. And there's a new rule that comes in where they're like, hey, I'm sorry, all animals got to be in cages for their own good. They come in and then they capture they capture the Professor Delamond. They go and capture Delamond, right? And Elphaba is the only person that's like, nah, that's weird. Y'all are being weirdos. I'm not letting that. The scene where they capture Delamond, literally the only person that seems to do anything of substance. And when I tell you, it is Elphaba, because of the connection that Elphaba has with animals. The connection that Elphaba has with animals is so interesting because of like, even as all the humans were treating her like dog water, just consistently, not just disrespecting, but going out their way to ostracize and paint her as a villain, even as a child. Like her father hated Elphaba. Like that's what's, the father wanted Elphaba to die. Literally any chance that he could, he'd be like, I want you to die. And the animals raised Elphaba. So she was like, yeah, no, I can't let this slide because they were the ones that saved me. Now I gotta big up for the champ. I have to be their champion. I gotta do what I can. And as the story goes on, they go and they're trying to take him. So it's like, oh, okay, interesting. Oh, I forget a part. They wheel in, so fast forward a little bit, they wheel in this they wheeled in this lion. They put a lion in the cage and they bring it out like a show and tell. And they're letting the class know, they're like, hey, this is this new invention that we're doing for the animals' sake. We're trying to help the animals. And I find it so interesting how just something simple as phrasing is able to change the context of the conversation. Because if you're able to make something illegal, you're going to have people that inherently want to comply. Because if people have this innate sense of trying to help the whole group by putting their own compliance at large. And that's the most important thing in their own life, because they know as long as I comply, everybody around me has a social contract to be like, oh yeah, let's everyone lock in. We must put our hands together and follow the rules, because if we don't have the rules, we got nothing. And I find that so interesting, how willing everybody was to just like throw away the life that they had before, because it's like, y'all live with animals. Like y'all know about this. Like they're not the bad guys. They're not bad guys. And so Elphaba is like, oh, okay, I got something for you. Because keep in mind, Elphaba is powerful. She actually does have magic. She's been like throwing magic here, throwing magic there, throwing magic everywhere, having this sense of this obscene control of this magic that is not seen anywhere. Like this whole class, their whole thing is trying to sit and learn magic. I feel like, and one of the reasons why Elphaba was admitted into this school without, like, literally forced to take these classes and like forced to be a part of the school was because she has this like uncanny ability to be so proficient with magic that is just not just rare, but just nobody's on her level. That's the best way I can put it. No one can look her in the eye when it comes to this magic stuff, especially that girl Galinda. But that's a whole nother conversation. So they end up taking they rewind a little bit. When they take the goat, they take away the goat, and Galinda stands in front of everybody and is like, in solidarity with Mr. Dillamond, I'm gonna change my gill to a gah for the goat. And that's all she does. That's how she stands up in solidarity. Even though she already got motion, there's so many more like active things that she could do, but the superficial surface level stuff is like, oh yeah, no, this is what's gonna really win me adoration from my cohort and really put me in the good graces where everybody's gonna see me as the good guy. They're gonna want to be me. They're going to love me because I have such a beautiful heart that everyone just wants to be my friend. I hated how much boot kissing everybody was doing to Galinda. It was frying me. I'm not gonna lie to you. Because it got to the point where so many of the characters, their whole character arcs was around kissing her feet. That's all they did the whole movie. I didn't like that it was the one Asian character, the one who's the other one? This is white lady. But that's the other point. Just kissing feet. It was wild. Honestly, when it comes to picking out movies, especially in the context of the PR that you already give, I don't know if this was the right character for Ariana Grande. Because of one of the main things I was seeing, everyone's like, I feel like she wasn't even acting. This is just her vibe. She's just giving this out. This is just how she just be like for real. And honestly, that's why. Ooh. Oh, fast forward to the second movie. So I will be just jumping around a lot of character points and a lot of plot lines in this, so y'all know. Nessa is Elphaba's sister, and she's paralyzed from the waist down. And you tend to notice this thing where all the energy, all the love, all the adulation and care is being put onto Nessa, and Elphaba is just being thrown to the wayside. They don't give a damn. And it feels like her whole existence is being like pampered and just like everybody going out their way to like help her around. Like, for example, one of the main things that they were focusing on is the fact that their dad was like actively doing things for Nessa. Like, she was the pretty princess. She was the heart and soul. She was like everything to these characters. And it got to the point where like Elphaba was going out of her way to shrink herself just so some shine could be on Nessa. And I feel like that's such a very interesting plot point to add, especially with a character like that. Because one thing I do notice is when you do have a sibling that is like sick in some way, or a sibling that is just has like more hardship in general, you notice this thing where you don't pay attention to the other sibling and you just expect that child to just be okay because they're always all right. But it's like they never get a chance to show that they're not all right. It kind of reminds me of this one Simpsons episode where, what's her name? Where Lisa, she's like, damn, I have to take care of myself. I could never be scared. I have to be all right. Like that's just period. Like there is no space for me to be having a problem because everybody else is having a problem, and I don't want to add on to that. So that was just a very interesting thematic aspect to Nessa that I found pretty interesting right away. And when you fast forward, especially when you get to the second movie, you start to notice there's a lot of like fascist ideas. This wasn't my first idea. I remember I was seeing this on TikTok where this one, I think that's what the title of the video was, but beyond the point, where he was pointing out that she was giving a lot of fascist ideologies, especially in the context of her being a like a disabled person, and the second that she's able to show and exhibit any forms of power, she takes it and then runs it to the umpteenth percentage to make sure that she ends up getting her way because of what's her name, Bog, I think that's the character's name. Bog ends up, and he does this thing when they were young, and they go to a dance, right? And he's like, oh, okay, you want to dance? And keep in mind, Galinda tells him to go dance with her, right? And he's like, out of my love for you, I will dance with whoever to the ends of the earth if I just get a chance. Brother was a simp. That man was a simpiest simp. Oh my God. Oh, he was ready to do whatever she was asking of him. But he goes and she takes Nessa to dance. And for once in Nessa's life, she was feeling free. Like she did not feel like a paraplegic. She did not feel like she was disabled. She felt like a quote unquote like regular girl, especially with the shoes that she was wearing. She was feeling such a connection to the shoes, like it was like a not so much a happenstance, but a tethering moments where this beautiful shoes were being swayed, these dance shoes were being moved around, was being used, and she was actually able to experience this free and light that she wasn't able to before because she was in that chair, and that chair has been like holding her back as she'd been feeling, right? Because one thing I will tell you, if someone pities you, you will feel it. If someone has pity for you, it's impossible to not be like, huh, you're acting weird. You are acting weird. So she starts behaving in full fascistry. Fascists. So full fascist, right? So she ends up, Bach is like, hey, I have to be honest with you. Me and you, we cannot work anymore. And first of all, real quick question. The way that the way that part was like framed, it seemed like they were breaking up, but it felt weird because of like they never like seemed to be together. But that's a whole other conversation. There's something about this movie and making men forcing them to be in a relationship with you, and that shit is hilarious. So Bach's like, hey, I gotta go. I'm not feeling this no more. I gotta go find Galinda. I love her. I gotta show her what her true love is. And he's like, yeah, I'm gonna go. And then Nessa's like, oh, okay, fine, just leave. He leaves. He starts going to the train, and guess what happens? He's not able to enter. And they look at the sign. It's like, hey, animals must have ID, and they must have a signed permission slip if you are a munchkin to get on that train and travel. And anytime a leader tells a group of people, yeah, you need explicit order from me, you might be in a little fascisty area. When you're actively holding people to a certain space based on your ID and based off of your ethnic or cultural or, those type of differences. Anytime you're like stuck in a specific place, go look South Africa. Beyond the point. You might be in a fascist regime. And the fact that she was so quick to get that right off. And then so Bach's like, wow, I'm stuck. He goes back to work. And honestly, you're getting a little slavey vibes. I'm not gonna lie. That's what I was feeling while watching him. Ooh, there's another thing I was thinking about. So y'all know she's like part munchkin, right? One of the wildest parts that I found, especially while watching it, I was like, wait, she's a munchkin. So she said, oh, you know what? I'm going to throw all of my people under the rug just because the man I love don't love me back. That's so crazy. Elphaba pulls up. They're hanging, they talking, they chilling. And what's her name? Nessa is mad at Elphaba because she was like, You never helped me. You never helped me when I asked. You were never there when dad died, or this, or that, or just complaining. Just complaining. I will say I hated that aspect about her character. She was just constantly complaining the whole goddamn time. And it got to the point where I was watching, and I was like, well, it wasn't her fault. You know that you guys are hunting her. Okay, one thing I want to say about Elphaba before I move on. All right. It really made me sad watching everything she would try to do fall apart, because of everything that she did had such good to great intentions, but she was constantly getting effed by the system. And as I'm watching, I'm starting to know sometimes, not only do some people just it's kind of a combination of, since the hardships of your life tend to show up in different ways and tends to influence the way that you are able to see the world, you tend to not really peep what is going on fast enough. And one of the things that I wish that she noticed from the beginning was the fact that the Wizard of Oz was a fake. He was going to continue to be a fake, and he was going to be always having that type of evil deep inside his heart, especially for a couple of reasons. When he was like, hey, read from this real quick. Oh, you got the power? You could actually use it? Oh, like, I just want to help the world too. So if you want to join hands with me, you could be the child that I never had. And she's eating it up. She's loving it. She's feeling it. And then she goes and does the chant where she puts wings. She puts some wings on a monkey. You see and you feel how much pain that monkey is in. And first of all, the first thing I was thinking to myself is, why the fuck would you do that? Have you never seen a monkey? Like, what are we doing? Because honestly, just based off of that, after that interaction, I would have never trust the wizard ever again. Because of, not only was there this willingness to inflict pain onto this animal right off the gate, but then to use you as a pawn, and now to fast forward it when he quote unquote lets you free the monkeys to try and make you feel a little bit better. I felt like he has been far too adamant on not only his distrust for animals, but the hatred that he has for animals, to put them in cages. Because keep in mind, the wizard is from our world. He is from here. So he has all these preconceived notions of what an animal should be and where they should be in their place. But then again, I feel like Elphaba might not have peeped that. One more thing about humans. Actually, no. I'm talk about the wizard real quick. I liked the fact that he had no magic. That felt really good to me. I'm not gonna lie, because of when you find him, right, and the fact that he's been using technology to mimic the implication, the ability of magic, was such a telling thing, because this movie seems to be like a propaganda piece, or at least an explanation of how propaganda can expedite all the way through a nation, especially when people are in a constant state of fear and oppression. Because of, it's kind of hard for you to peek behind the curtain when you are visibly scared, hungry, and confused. And especially there's this other thing that they're pushing through, where if you are able to point your daggers at one person, at one ideology, everybody will come together. Because of the way that they were going out their way to make Elphaba look like a witch. They had, what's her name? Madame Margel, something like that. The one Asian lady. The fact that she was, let me breathe. She was constantly And what I mean, she got on that microphone and let the world know that I was the Wicked Witch. Everything bad that you've ever felt in this world was from the Wicked Witch. You see, she went and deformed these animals. Keep in mind, she knew that that was the plan too. First of all, why was she so okay with this? I was trying to figure out her grand plan the whole time I'm watching the movie. Because it feels like all she wants out of the life is to just be a number two. That's like the goal, the hope, everything, right? And I loved when when she took off her mask. Like when you figured out who was the real bad guy, I was like, oh yeah, no, we are hoping right now. There's a couple scenes. One thing I will say, the ability to inject all the other characters from the Wizard of Oz into this movie, and the building upon the lore of all these characters was actually a very beautiful thing. I really enjoyed it, especially from the context of watching the Wizard of Oz, because of you see how much background and how much crazy stuff was going down before Dorothy even appears into the story. Like the world was falling apart. They were hunting the witch for the past like 2 years before Dorothy even pulls up. The way Dorothy pulls up, the house goes, the house from Kansas flies and then crashes. Keep in mind, guess who that building crashes on? Dorothy's house fell on Nessa. On Elphaba's sister. And it turns out they went and planned it out. And guess who gave them that bright idea? Galinda. Because she was hating that Fiyero loved her more than Galinda. He had an eye for Elphaba, and that just shocked her. She couldn't believe this man would see Galinda as see Elphaba as something just worth of love. And I'm not gonna lie, I hated that scene where they bring him out, right? And then the first thing that she does is like, "Oh, this is me and my fiance." Fiyero didn't propose. He ain't do nothing. He literally like standing here looking around like, oh, so I guess. And then Glinda asks him, was like, well, would that make you happy? And he's like, what did he say? He was like, I just like the fact that I'm making you happy. Something of those lines. As long as you're happy, I'm happy. And this is about marriage. Let that man go. Let that man go. But yeah, no, this movie was fantastic. There's so much more that happened in this movie, but I'm gonna keep this like 40-ish, 50-ish minutes. But yeah. All right. Make sure to leave a like, comment, subscribe, and we out.